Thanks for joining us.
Of course, thanks for having me.
First question, I'll go right in with it kind of.
Go for it, just hit it hard right out the gate.
Right out the gate. Adventure Time, something that you've been part of since you were 13?
12.
12.
12, yes.
Obviously a character you played over different mediums as well, your video games,
Yep.
Lego Dimensions, this kind of things. How did you feel when the final season
Aired and ended, yeah. It's definitely always, it's always it's a very surreal, weird thing. I mean, when you're doing something for, I guess, the better part of like 10 years, it's weird not having that like consistency, like Tuesday afternoons were always Adventure Time record day, week in and week out for like almost 10 years. So when you're no longer doing that, it's like, what do I do with my Tuesdays now? And it's such a great cast and crew. I think the biggest part is the bittersweetest part is always not getting to see those people on a regular basis because you get along with them and you have a lot of fun just recording the show. But I mean, we all understand that most shows don't even get to go half that long, and so it's a big just blessing and opportunity to be a part of a show that has resonated so well with audiences and people loved for that long time. And so it's bittersweet in that way, but then going on and doing kind of new challenges and trying out new things is also fun. But it's weird. It's weird growing up with a character for all of your formative years from 12 to 21. I think it was cool. We got to we did a screening of the finale in LA with like a packed out theater of like a very specific number of like fans that got to go. There's like a raffle to get in basically. And so we watched it with them live, and just hearing their immediate response as they're watching it with you in the same theater was really, really special, really, really cool. And then we did like a Q&A afterwards. And I think at that point it more or less finally kind of hit me that it was like over. Because before then you're like, there's still episodes airing for like a year or so after you're done recording, and so it doesn't feel like it's fully gone yet. But then once that happened, you're like, oh, okay, we've put a cap on it. It's out there. It's done. I think Adventure Time is going to be one of those modern classics that is kind of around for a very long time, even after the show. I don't know if we're going to do, if they'll do more with it or not. I think it's such a big property that I feel like they would in some way, shape, or form.
Definitely. Game changer.
Yeah, but it's been
opened up animation to a whole different.
It did. It's a very different type of show, especially I think when it came out, there wasn't a lot of shows like it at the time. And I think that kind of springboarded a kind of new generation of animation that kind of followed in its footsteps, for sure.
The other question, this is something that came up yesterday when I was talking to Zach. He's also releasing music, and I know you're in a rock band. Is that like an outlet? Is that your kind of being a kind of young adult? Mm-hmm. So I'm taking all the things that I can't put into Finn, and I'm taking them out, in the band.
Yeah, I think it comes from it's a weird thing in acting. You have like times when you're ridiculously busy for like months on end and you don't have time to do anything, and then you'll have like a few like weeks or month or however much here and there where you're like, what am I doing? So it's kind of more like I'm a very hardworking person and very creative, and so I don't like being bored. I would rather go do something, and so I think I've always had a love of music, and so I think it kind of came from that place of wanting to do something a little bit different, and kind of fill my time actively working on something. And music has always been very close to my heart, so it was a fun thing to do. It wasn't like I'm gonna go just take up another job, because music is a hard thing to do. It's a lot of work, and so if you don't really love doing it, there's no point to just do it for the sake of doing it. And I've always grown up with that. I love that style of music. And one of my brothers is in the band, and two other close friends we've known for a long time. And so it's just fun for us to get to do that and have kind of a creative outlet that's a little bit different. It's all in entertainment. Yeah. It's all kind of telling stories and giving people escapism and entertainment in different forms. And so in that aspect, it's not that far from, I guess, the other things I do, but it's fun to have something that's just a little bit different. And that's why I also enjoy doing animation as well as on-camera acting as well, because they're even those two mediums have their differences for sure.
And how did you start in the voice acting game? I'm looking at your IMDb.
Yeah.
One of your first credits is My Neighbour's Yamadas.
Yeah.
And it's quite a strange one.
It's a very weird. Yeah.
One.
If you, I haven't looked through my IMDb page in forever, but I did recently, and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot that I worked on, like, you forget things that you worked on that are like just little, very small bit parts or something like that. That came from, for a long time, I did like ADR loop groups, which is basically you'll go in and there'll be a movie, it could be animation or live action, it could be a TV show too. But there'll be like, all the extras and people in the background of any given scene. If you're, most general public never pay attention to what's the, ambient noise in the background, you're just focusing on the conversation. But you have to add all that in. So looping is basically going in and adding little conversations for all the people in the background that you're not really. And then sometimes you'll see people that are more prevalent extras that will say, they'll open their mouth or say something that looks very specific. And so you have to what did that person just say? And so you'll have to basically, it's all improv essentially. It's just you having improvised conversations in the background of whatever's happening. And then they just all, dial that all way back in the mix, obviously. But that's what that is. And so I think on the Yamatos, that's pretty much what I was doing. But then sometimes if it's on an animated project, they'll have someone who they actually have to redo a line for or something. And so you'll end up getting featured basically and just being in it. So I think that was probably one of those cases where I probably ended up doing an actual one line from somebody here and there amidst all the background stuff. So I did a lot of that when I was younger. I haven't done that in a long time. But that's where that and a few other random credits that I have from Paranorman and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and other stuff. That's where those came from. People always ask me oh, who'd you play in that? I'm like, I have no idea who I played in that, but I got the credit for it. So that's where those came from. But I started doing voiceover when I was about probably 7 or 8, pretty young. And I was doing on-camera stuff before then, but the agency I was with just had a voiceover department, and so it just kind of started sending me out for little radio commercials and so on and so forth, and here we are 15 years later.
Excellent. Thanks.
Yeah.
What got you into voice acting?
I think, when you're that young, I was very little when I started, but when you're that young, I don't think you think of voice acting as something that's even a thing. When you're 7 years old, you just think that's just that cartoon, whatever. You're not thinking about the person behind it. And so when the agent basically started sending us out for it, then I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get what this is now. And I think any little kid getting to do a voice of a cartoon sounds like fun, and so I think that's always where it's been for me, is just that sounds fun. What the heck? Why not try it? And so when I was little, I did stuff I did the voice of Bambi for Disney for a couple different little toy things they had, and very random stuff like that. And then just kind of worked my way up. But I think it's all forms of acting for me. It's you can do acting and animation. You can do it on camera. You can do it on kind of live stuff too. It's just a different form of acting, but it's very fun. And I think weirdly, once you start doing it, it makes you more conscious of how your voice will sound in different things. And so weirdly, it's even helped on the on-camera side at times, because for different characters, you kind of think about, oh, this person probably sounds a little bit like this. They might be a little bit less literate. They might be a little bit more intelligent sounding. They have a lower, more kind of, not giving a crap tone. They might be more kind of younger sound, and so it even has lended itself to helping in that. And then definitely with singing, being able to understand pitch and tone, and making your voice sound a little bit different on certain songs here and there and stuff too. It's once you kind of open those floodgates, you start seeing it in everything a little bit.
Do you take the direction that you're given for your voice acting, whether it be for films, TV shows or video games? Do you take all that into the band?
No, I think some of it, there's little things I've learned from that you'll put into it, but you try to, I guess, make it its own thing as much as you can, because I don't want to, I would never want it to be like the only reason people are, are listening to it is because of me from something else. You genuinely want it to be something that you're passionate about and that you love doing, because it'll, I think, be a better song to begin with, just off of that. And you want them to, even if the way they found out about it was because they know you from something else, you always want them to, when they hear it, then be like, oh, but this is just a really good song. Like I would listen to this even if I didn't know this person. And so that's kind of that's the goal. I will gladly use my other stuff to get people to hear about it, because why the heck not? In this market you have to. But once they hear it, you want them to just enjoy it for what it is. So you try and kind of have it be its own separate thing that I guess merits itself.
Is there any competitiveness? Because obviously your brother is a voice actor as well. So between you two, is anything like, oh, I want to get that role?
I think it's hard for anyone. Even if I was just by myself, it's hard. You have a lot of other people that are great at it, and so I think for us, whenever somebody gets a role, period, you're just excited, for one of us to get something. So I don't know if it's is like competitive more so than just. We'll audition for the same things, but it's weird because I'll hear like his audition, I'll hear mine, and I'm like, even though we're brothers, there's surprisingly very different takes on things. You'll have completely different idea of what this character is than even I will, and I think that's great because it's not just like having two carbon copies of the same person doing the same thing, and I love that. And so sometimes I'll hear his and I'm like, dang, that's way better than mine. I was like, crap, I did not even think about it that way. That's awesome. But that's in those instances, and then if one of you, like, he'll get something, I'll be just stoked for him because I'm like, dude, I love that. You're just happy for, you want everyone to be successful and to be working. So I think that's more so where it comes from.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.